who works hard to achieve something, sir. Tapaswi in the sense.
All right, all right. So Tapas, like you have a technically you have a very good CGPA in your BTech as well as in masters in IIT Kanpur. You have a CGPA of 9.75 in both the
Yes,
places,
sir.
right? So
Yes.
like obviously you could be a very good mechanical engineer, right?
Yes, sir.
So but Tapas, why are you doing all this tapasya for civil services and forest services from so long, right? When you could be a very good mechanical engineer.
Yes, sir. So during my BTech, I did not had any such plan. So while I was doing my MTech in my final year, I came in contact with some undergraduate students who were actually preparing for this exam. And sir, at that point, the way our education system was structured, I have read the polity and this civics and all these subjects only till 10th, and I did not had the understanding of those subjects at that time. But in my final year of masters, I got a, inclination towards learning these things. And one more thing that my MTech guide sir, since he was not taking any more PhD students because he was set to retire, so that is why immediately I did not wanted to pursue my PhD. And since I was having a liking towards these subjects, so I thought that I will give it a try. So although I never thought that I will give a try for 6 years, but then sir, it went on like that. And sir, presently I'm doing my PhD at IIT Madras. Sir. I just joined this July session because my attempts are over, sir, and the forest service interviews were taking too long to be notified. So I started my PhD, sir, IIT Madras.
All right, Tapas. So like you did your masters in manufacturing science, right?
Yes, sir.
So what this manufacturing science is all about? What is its utility in economy?
So eventually, whatever we are going to design in our mechanical engineering, ultimately we need to go for manufacturing of that product. So manufacturing science is all about that, sir. So here we read about a number of manufacturing processes whereby we implement whatever the design and the thermal fundamentals are there into some useful products, sir. For example, in our thermal engineering, we have got some basic cycles, such as for a petrol engine works on Otto cycles. So eventually, in thermal engineering, we are going to learn that what exactly is that Otto cycle, how it is. We have to understand that how it is done. But in manufacturing science, we are going to go with the manufacturing of the product, like piston, cylinder, then assembly of these both, so that we can get an engine and we can generate some power based on those cycles. So that is manufacturing engineering all about.
All right, Tapas. Right. So like in our country, we are reading in all our textbook, all our experts are saying that the way for the high growth economic trajectory is a
Yes.
push to manufacturing, right? Manufacturing sector.
Yes,
But
sir.
yes, yet after a lot of effort, right, lot of initiative, this manufacturing is yet to like take up in our country. So
Yes.
what are the three most important real issues that manufacturing is not happening and employment growth is not happening because of that?
Sir, manufacturing sector has a high employment elasticity, sir. So if we can promote our manufacturing sector, then the amount of employment generated will definitely be much higher than the services sector. So, but somehow when we took the policy decisions, sir, somehow it did not went very right, sir. For example, sir, India was a developing country. On the other hand, we have several other least developed countries. Who would be getting some sort of advantage while we are going for that export model, because they are charged lesser taxes and all these things. So this is one factor, sir. Apart from that, in India, probably the manufacturing sector has been marred with a lot of labor laws, sir. So labor laws in India are very complex. Like if there are it is said that I've read in a newspaper article that there are hundreds of state laws and maybe some 40s and like in 40s 44 central laws which a company has to adhere to in order to comply with all the labor laws, and it is eventually impossible. So that also leads to lesser productivity in the companies, the multinationals, or everywhere. So that is why we are unable to attract these companies which are leaving China right now, and eventually they are going to Vietnam, and Bangladesh is also able to reap up that dividend. But for India, it is not up to the potential, although some companies have come, but not up to the potentials. So these are the major factors. And apart from that, sir, the raw material cost in India is also a little high. So we have a problem of inverted duty structure, so which the government has taken recently the initiatives to rectify it, sir. So I can think of these factors right now.
All right, Tapas. Right. Have you heard about man-animal conflict?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, which are the animal, in your opinion, which have the most conflict with humans?
So it has to be the big cats, and then elephants also are very much in news in man-animal conflicts. So these two are, from my opinion, these two are the primary. Uh,
What are big cats?
so big cats means like lions, leopards, tigers. So we say like this. We call them big cats. Cheetah is
All
also
right.
one of them, sir.
Okay. So, do we find cheetah in India?
No, sir, not yet. But we are in the process of translocating some of the cheetahs from Africa to India. Maybe that will be possible by the end of this year or next year. So that is up to the government to take the final decision on that.
All right. So, like generally in news, we see that there is more conflict with leopard, right? Maybe even
Yes,
in
sir.
Gurgaon and many places, there's more conflict with leopard than tiger.
Yes,
So,
sir.
can you think what could be the reason why there is more conflict with leopard than compared to tiger?
Sir, tigers are very much territorial animals. So we are having increase in the number of tigers, and that is one of the factors which is pushing the leopards away from their conventional areas because they want to avoid a conflict with the tigers, and that obvious. That is why they come into venture. They venture into the areas, domestic areas. Our protected area, that area is very less. Sir. So eventually they come into the human habitations, and that leads to confrontations, sir, and a loss of life for both humans and leopards in a certain way.
So you mean that the tiger has a territory inside the forest, so they push the leopard in the fringes of the forest.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, that happens normally. Like leopard have a normal orientation, like not to confront the tigers because compared to tigers, they don't have that much strength, so they are going to lose up in that battle.
Alright. So Tapas, like there are so many conflict. We hear daily about conflict of leopard, tiger. Then there is elephant. There are snake bites. That is also kind of man-animal
Yes, sir.
conflict, right? So like a lot of animals they keep harming humans, right? So why we should conserve these animals, right? When they are harming us and when there is a lot of poverty and lot of suffering for ourselves. So why should we waste money on conservation of animals?
Uh, Sir, basically human beings are dependent on our environment for a variety of services, so we cannot say that on one hand we have humans and on the other hand we have our environment, which will include the wildlife also. So for environment to be sustainable, for environment to be stable, sir, I would say the health of the overall ecosystem that depends on the wildlife health also, and that is the reason we should go for the conservation. So for example, if we are conserving tiger, we won't end up conserving only tigers. We will look into the prey species also, so we will be able to conserve the lesser species, that smaller species. Then we will be focusing on conservation of the whole ecosystem. We will focus on the conservation of forest as well.
All right, I get it. There is an environmental dimension to it, but
Yes, sir.
what I wanted to ask that is there any economic dimension to conservation of animal?
Yes, via ecotourism, we can have some financial gains, but not to say that we are doing it for ecosystems. Sir. So, as per my understanding, sir, we are doing primarily from the environment point of view and not from the economic point of view, as per my understanding, sir.
All right, Tapas. So my last question to you, Tapas, is: have you heard about a term Patjhad? In English, it is translated as autumn.
Yes, sir.
All right. So like you are from Uttar Pradesh. So can
Yes,
you
sir.
tell me in this area of Uttar Pradesh, maybe Bihar, when this Patjhad happens?
So normally before the summer season starts, sir.
All right. And when this Patachad or an autumn happens in the maybe in Western countries like
Yes,
Germany,
sir.
US.
So that happens just before the winter seasons are there, because there the winters are very extreme, and in our areas we the summers are very extreme, sir. So because of that, the trees they shed their leaves. So these are deciduous trees which will shed their leaves in a particular season of a year, sir. So that
So
leads to this phenomenon.
why do these trees shed their leaves?
Sir, that is a natural process, because they will grow new leaves, they will shed up the old leaves. So evergreen trees will keep on doing it throughout the year, but in deciduous trees, they will it happens throughout the year also, but in one particular season, they will shed all their leaves to conserve their whatever that moisture and the nutrients are there, sir, because there is a lack of it in a particular season.
So it is linked to weather also, right? This is
Yes,
what I
sir.
wanted to ask.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, all right. So now I think Paritosh sir can take over. Thank you, Tapas.
Yes, sir. And happy Teachers' Day to all the teachers here.
Thank you, Tapas.
Thank you, thank you. So Tapas, uh, I'll ask you a question which is very common in interviews, but since uh, you're a very bright student, especially focused on academics, I expect a very well-formed answer. How do you plan to use your knowledge of mechanical engineering once you are into the forest services?
Sir, I would like to break this answer into two areas. Like the part A would be related to that it is how it is already used in the area of forestry, and part B would be that how we can further use this knowledge, which is probably not used till now, as per my understanding, sir. So coming to the part one, how it is already used, sir. So in order to increase the life of the timber products or timber itself, we go for seasoning process, sir. So there either we can go for air seasoning, or we can also go for the furnace seasoning or kiln seasoning we are talking about. So in that kiln seasoning, sir, that is primarily based on the concept of refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat and mass transfer, sir. So that is one area where we are already utilizing it. The forest department is utilizing it. Apart from that, sir, in the paper and pulp industry, we are using the big rollers. So that rolling process is being used in order to go for the finished product, which is paper, sir, from the pulp. This is one area. And sir, already we are using mechanized harvesters, because normally we don't go for clear felling. So when in selection felling, sir, there can be some sort of damage to
In
the
terms
other
of
trees.
conservation, like I understand these are forest products, so they will have a dimension of mechanical manufacturing. In terms of conservation,
So in terms of conservation, sir, I was not able to think of any idea of mechanical engineering which I can use, sir. But one area where I can use my knowledge of mechanical engineering, because industrial engineering is a part of mechanical engineering, sir. So maybe we can use the idea of method study in order to enhance that livelihood of tribal people, sir. That is one area where this can be used. And then the idea concepts of transportation and linear programming problem can be implemented in order to reduce the transportation cost within the forest. These two areas are what I can think of, which are yet to be used, maybe because I have never heard that it is being used. And as far as the proper silviculture is concerned, sir, I have not thought of any, like, I did not get any idea of mechanical engineering which can be implemented, sir.
yes. No, no. Like you must have studied this planning and production engineering, how
Yes.
to estimate. So that can be used when we are planning forest outputs,
Okay, sir.
especially when you would have studied the working plan.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you get a sense of how it can be used, right? Okay,
Sir,
that's all that is required. No, no,
yes.
I do understand that you're getting it right.
Yes, sir.
Uh, what are the different types of turbines?
Sir, uh, Sir, normally we either use impulse turbine or reaction turbine, but based on these principles also, there are several classification of turbines, sir. I am unable
Difference between impulse and reaction turbine.
Sir, impulse turbine will only work on the principles of change in kinetic energy. So, if we want to understand it in a very simple terms, we can understand it like this: that we are just impinging a jet of water over a particular turbine, that is the turbine plates, and that is leading to the rotation of the turbines. Simple principle based on the change in kinetic energy or the conservation of angular momentum, we can say like that. But in reaction turbines, we not only use the impulse effect, which is the change in kinetic energy, but we also take into account the changes in the pressure energy. So we design our turbine like that, that there are some pressure changes as the fluid flows, and that also leads to rotation of the turbines. So this is the basic
In
principle.
which in which situation would you use a nozzle, and in which situation would you use a diffuser?
So if I am having a lot of water head available, so that means that it will simply convert to a lot of kinetic energy for me. So there, in that case, we can go for impulse turbine. But if the water head is not that high, in that situation, perhaps it would be prudent to use that diffuser, so that we can also utilize the pressure energy along with the kinetic energy in order to go for the
Okay.
turbine rotation.
Since you are from UP, and we always hear this, the division of the state is being planned at the political level.
Yes.
But can you, from your analysis, present a natural geographic division of UP, like I would say, division of UP into different natural regions? And based on your definition of how you come about it, how many parts do you think it can be divided for optimum management of that region and progress?
Sir, normally this idea of dividing Uttar Pradesh comes into the minds of the people because Uttar Pradesh is a very large area and we are having a developmental gap. So the western Uttar Pradesh is more developed because of that canal system of irrigation. So agricultural economy is good, and that too due to the nearness with the Delhi NCR region. That region is industrially and services, and the service sector is also a little bit more developed compared to the eastern region. So that leads to this, and in the natural resource also when we are talking about. So on one hand we are having the Terai region in Uttar Pradesh.
No, wait a second. I'll clarify. I want you to divide Uttar Pradesh into different natural regions. Natural regions are not natural resources. So attempt it again.
Sir, I think I'm unable to answer this question, sir. Like I don't have much
Okay.
idea how to answer it.
Okay. Are you aware of the smuggling of forest products that happen at the UP-Nepal border?
So not exactly at the UP-Nepal border, but smuggling does happen, sir, and at that time.
What can you tell us about that?
So this crime, wildlife crime of smuggling came into the news very much because of the COVID crisis, sir. Because there was a dimension that it has been transferred to the humans from animals, which are being smuggled illegally across the borders, sir. So that is where I heard of these news.
What is the concept of wet markets?
So, sir, I'm unable to remember it at this time, sir.
Okay, this is my last question. Uh, what is uh, what is it that is driving you towards forest services? From a very esteemed career that you're scaling new heights in your field, in your subjects.
Yes.
Why is that engineers often drift? And I do understand that many engineers are not of that quality, but considering your education, what is making you drift towards forest services?
So, when I was in my final year of my MTech, sir, I sat for the recruitment process, sir, and eventually I got one job in Tata Motors, sir. And I have talked about it with my MTech guide also, Professor PM Dikshit, and some of his students were also working in Tata Motors, which eventually left for their higher studies, that is PhD in foreign universities, sir. So I came to inquire from them that why they did so, and they told me that the idea of mechanical engineering which we get at IITs, especially IIT Kanpur, is research, sir. We are not there to do a managerial job, sir. So if one has to continue in the field of mechanical engineering, then it will be better if we can pursue our research career rather than working in the managerial fields. So at that time only I decided, sir, that because of my liking towards these subjects of polity, which I did not get a chance to study after my 10th. So that is why I started this preparation. And as far as forest service concerned, sir, I can cite three primary reasons why I want to choose this career over and above my academic career. Number one
This
would
is
be
where your answer starts.
okay.
This is where your answer starts.
Yes, sir. So I will be very quick, sir. Number one will be that I will be able to serve to work for the benefit of the environment, to work for the benefit of the tribal people, and sir, for my own career prospects also, it will be better because it will take me nearly 7 to 8 years to establish myself as in the academic field. But here, sir, I can just start with my career, sir, in the forest service if selected, obviously.
Okay. Okay. Over
Yes,
to
sir.
Rishabh, sir.
Good morning, Deepas.
Good morning, sir.
So, how was your morning today?
So morning was absolutely fine, sir. The coursework is going on for PhD, so I was doing my homework in the morning, and then so now I am in my this mock interview, sir.
Okay, you study Kalinga.
Sir, I think there is some problem with the voice, sir.
Kalinga very important.
Sorry, sir, there is a connection problem. I am unable to.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. No, it's okay.
For this?
Sir, not yet,
Okay,
sir.
so you study Kalinga and am I audible?
So the voice is cracking a little bit, sir, because of the internet connection, maybe. Sir, am I from my side? Is it okay, sir?
Yes, it is okay from your side. So maybe I can take it here, Rishabh sir. Uh, okay, so until he joins again, is it okay? Maybe.
So, so maybe if he switches off his audio,
I
then
will take after you.
okay.
Okay. All right. So tell me, Tapas, what are seeded trees or seeded plants
So seeded trees. So I
or
have not
plants?
heard. So seeded plants, sir. I have not heard about them, sir.
Okay. So seeded plants are the plants which have seeds basically. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Have you heard about flowering versus non-flowering plants?
Yes, sir.
What is the difference between them?
Sir, some plants will be producing flowers to go for the reproduction, but while some plants will not produce the flowers. So this is the difference between flowering and non-flowering plants.
Can you give some examples?
So examples. So rose is one flowering plant. So gulmohar also produces flowers, but non-flowering plants, sir, I am unable to recall at this point, sir.
Okay. Have you heard about pines? Pine,
Yes,
spruce?
sir.
Okay. Are they
Yes, yes.
flowering or non-flowering?
So pines, sir, I think they are non-flowering, but I am not very sure, sir.
Okay. Okay. Do you know not the examples but technical terms for these? What are flowering plants called?
Sir, I guess not.
Okay. Okay. All right. Uh, what is the difference between a fruit and a vegetable?
Sir, I'm not aware of it.
Okay. Uh, is tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Sir, sir, in general parlance, we understand it as I understand it as a vegetable,
Okay.
but I still cannot give a clear answer to your question that whether it is a fruit or a vegetable, sir.
Okay. Okay. No problem. So in your room behind you, I see there is an air conditioner, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it on at the moment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me, walk me through how is it cooling the room?
Yes, sir. So this is one of the basic topics in our mechanical engineering, the refrigeration air conditioning process. So, sir, it primarily consists of four parts. Number one is the evaporator. So the evaporator coils are there, and then it from the evaporator there is a refrigerant which flows through all the components. So from the evaporator, the refrigerant will absorb the heat from the room, and then it will go to a compressor. The work of the compressor is to increase the pressure of the refrigerant, and along with the pressure the temperature also increases. That is the property, sir. So when this temperature is being increased, after that from the compressor it goes to a condenser, sir. So there are condenser coils behind this air conditioner. Air blows through it, and that because of the increase in temperature when we are compressing the refrigerant, it is also leading to the heat transfer away from the refrigerant, and then we are using the expansion valve. So after the condenser we have the expansion valve whereby we reduce the pressure. So the moment we reduce the pressure, the temperature drops, and this time the temperature drops to a very low value, like 1 degree or 2 degree, because just in the condenser we have led to some heat transfer out to the environment outside, sir. So that is how it works. Again, it will go to the evaporator, and this cycle will
Okay.
continue, sir.
So you're saying the cooling happens due to evaporation. Okay. Oh, sorry,
So not evaporate.
due to expansion.
Sir, expansion, sir, all these processes are linked, sir. So
Okay.
expansion, compression, heat transfer in the evaporator and the condenser and
Okay.
everything, sir.
Okay, okay, good, very good. Can you tell me the difference between herb, shrub, and tree?
Sir, I will attempt this question, sir. My knowledge will not be technically that sound, but what my understanding goes like this, sir. Sir, a herb is a non-woody plant, and its height is generally less than 1 meter, sir. So some examples of herb would be like we are using coriander, then pudina is also there. So these are the examples of herb. Then coming to shrubs, sir, these are woody stems, woody plants, but then they will lead to immediate branching, and their height will also be not as high as a tree. So maybe they will be limited to some 1 meter or maybe 2 meter, 3 meter, but not beyond 6 meter. I have never seen a shrub which goes beyond 3 meter in my life, sir. 3 to 4 meters at max, sir. And they will immediately branch. So some examples would be a rose tree or a lemon plants, not tree, a rose or a lemon. These are shrubs. And in fact, we have an invasive alien species in our forest. So that Lantana camera, that is also classified as a shrub only. And so lastly, we have trees, so which have a woody stem, and normally they will not branch up to a particular height, and their height is also very long. So they will branch at the top side, and in the middle they will not branch, and they are woody stems. That is how we
Okay.
classify a tree.
Okay, Tapas. So you said invasive species. So what are invasive species and how are they different from exotic species?
Sir, both invasive species and exotic species, they are naturally not found in the region of consideration. So what makes invasive species different from exotic species is that invasive species, they will come and they will colonize that area. So they will become a threat to the native species. However, we always consider this exotic species term in a sense that we are going to introduce it in a particular area for having enhanced economical or ecological
Can you give
benefits.
some examples of exotic species in India?
Sir, exotic species, sir, eucalyptus is one exotic species, sir. In fact, in Uttar Pradesh, we are having poplar plantations, sir. So poplar is also one of the exotic species only. So I think it is from Russia, sir. And we are going for the plantations of Acacia tortilis species in the Rajasthan areas to combat the desertification, especially. So that is, I think, from Israel, sir.
Okay.
These are some.
What about eucalyptus?
So that is also exotic species.
What are some of the problems associated with eucalyptus plantations in India?
Sir, eucalyptus, I think, sir, we have also tried it with the agroforestry system, and there it was found that it was having allelopathic effect on the nearby plants. And then, sir, it is a very water drawing plant species. So that is why it is not very much suitable in India. But along the canal side, we do it, sir.
Okay.
Eucalyptus plantations.
Regarding some food that we eat, okay, can you name some food items in India which are very, very common today, but they are not native to the Indian subcontinent? They have been brought from abroad. I can give you one example. For example, potato is not native to India. Can you give some other examples?
Sir, I cannot think of it right now, sir.
Okay, no problem. So that's all from my side. Over to you, Rishabh sir.
Good morning, Tapas.
Good morning, sir.
So, am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
So, you are from Devaria. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, can you tell me with which district of Bihar Devaria shares its border?
No idea, sir. I was just born there, so my mother is from
Okay.
Devariya, but I am not aware of this fact, sir.
Okay, no issues. So you studied from Kalinga.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Kalinga played a very significant role in the spread of Buddhism in Asia overall and India to particularly.
Yes, sir.
So can you tell us about that?
Sir, it was the King Ashoka who basically appointed missionaries to various places, and that is one of the contributive factors to the spread of Buddhism, sir. But King Ashoka adopted Buddhism after the Kalinga, after he has undertaken this Kalinga war. So he was very much moved by the suffering and the deaths of the people. That has moved his heart, and then he converted into Buddhism, and that is one link, sir.
So among whom this war was fought?
Sir, from Kalinga, I am not very much aware of the dynasty, but Samrat Ashok was one of the.
Okay. So Ashoka, under his leadership only, the third Buddhist council was conducted. Are you aware of this?
Yes, sir.
So tell us about that.
Sir, so by this time, basically the divisions have started within Buddhism also, that how they should proceed with their principles. So Hinyan, Mahayan, and these things were very much visible. But then, because of the personality of Samrat Ashok, there was no division, sir, between Hinyan and Mahayan. And basically, sir, in these councils, sir, I'm not very much aware of them, but some Sut Pitak and these three Pitaks were being compiled, sir. So in maybe one of them was during this third council also.
Ajay, can you tell me the place where it was conducted?
Sir, I am not aware, sir. I have forgotten. I'm not able to recollect it at this time,
Okay,
sir.
it's Patliputra.
Okay, sir.
And you told us about Mahayan and Hinayan. So can you tell me the difference between them?
Sir, just like in Hinduism, we are having certain sects that will go for idol worship. Some will not go for idol worship. In Buddhism also, there are certain people. That Hinyan sect, they believe that there should not be any idol worship, and they see Lord Buddha not as a god, but rather as a guide. But in Mahayan sect, Lord Buddha is seen as a god, and they also adopt the practice of idol worship, and they have also invented the idea of bodhisattva. So like if I can use this term, lesser gods, so they will be the one who will guide them toward their ultimate god, and that is Lord Buddha. So I have a very limited understanding of this.
Okay, no, no, fine, it's fine. So can you tell us the reasons for the decline of Buddhism in India?
So, to begin with, there were certain rulers which were not very much adopting the Buddhism. Rather, they were also persecuting Buddhism, sir. So, if I am not wrong, probably Pushpamitra Shunga was one such leader, one such king who has persecuted the Buddhist people. And then, sir, eventually what happened with time was that Mahayan Buddhism came into practice, sir, and that was very much not different from the practice of the Hinduism at that time. So that is why the people did not had a the orientation towards Buddhism in India. But outside India, people definitely had something new to be offered by Buddhism, sir. And eventually, the Buddhist monks, they also started becoming into like they also started the practices which were being done by the regular people. So they also started that practices. So how to put it, I am unable to understand. It has been quite a lot of time. But then they also they also started adopting some practices which were eventually not very much conducive to the spread of Buddhism in
Oh,
India.
oh. Okay, okay, good. So can you tell us about this biodiversity hotspot?
Mm, yes, sir. So, biodiversity hotspot, like it is not a part of some legislation in India. If I can recall it, if it is specified by a NGO called Conservation International. So, biodiversity hotspot, the idea is that there are certain regions where the biodiversity is simply very huge, and based on certain criteria we can just define such areas into the hotspot. So in India we are also having 4 biodiversity hotspot regions. So that is Western Himalayas, then one is the Indo-Burma region, that sides Western Ghats in one of them, and then as a part of Sundaland, Nicobar Islands are there, sir. So we have a criteria to define it, is exactly, sir.
Okay. So who is the governor of your state?
Sir, sir, presently, sir, I am aware, but I think, sir, Anandiben Patel, Mrs. Anandiben Patel was the
Okay.
governor, sir.
Okay. And who is the vice president of our country?
Sir, Shri Venkaiah Naidu. Sir.
Okay. And can you tell us about this Montrex record?
Sir, Montrex record was part of the Ramsar that sites. So it is a list within the Ramsar sites which are threatened and that may lose its identity in the coming future, primarily because of the anthropogenic activities. So from India, I think 2 sites are there which are in Montrex record right now. So one is the Loktak Lake in Manipur, and the other one is, I am forgetting. Chilka Lake was initially in this list, but then it was in some years before it was made outside that list, sir.
Keoldev is right now there.
Yes, sir. That is in the Montrex. That is the second one, sir.
Okay, so my last question to you, this all India services like IS, IPS, forest services,
Yes,
these
sir.
all were designed by Britishers just to exploit the people of our country, and these forest services were to exploit our mineral resources. So why after independence we are still continuing with it?
Sir, sir, on one hand, we can say that yes, they, as a instruments of colonial government, they were actually exploiting the India, but still we continued with it because these services provided an administrative structure to the governance of the system. So, how should an independent country start from scratch, sir? Somewhere we need to have that governance structure, sir, and that was being provided by this All India services. In fact, we also went for a federation where the union is strong, sir. So, how can we ensure that the union is strong so that the unity of the country, our country, is being ensured, sir? And this All India services was one of the way, and ultimately it depends on the people, sir. So if the governance, the way the polity works, if it works for the welfare of the people, then automatically these services which were once a part of the exploitative system, they can very well serve the interest of the nation, sir, and they have been doing it, sir. We have several
Okay,
examples.
thank you, Tapas. Chalo, your interview now over to Mayank sir. Mic is off, Mayank sir. Mic is off.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Tapas, your interview is over, I think, right? So you can leave the call for a couple of minutes, then join back. I'll text you for the feedback, right? Thank
Okay,
you,
okay,
Tapas.
sir.